webinar, where we're going to talk about, is trading an art or a science? We could talk about this all day, but we've only got about 40 minutes, so we will focus on that, and we will move on very quickly. If you're joining us here today live, that's fantastic. Great to see you all here. If you're joining us here on Zoom, or if you're joining us on our YouTube live stream, you're very welcome to join us. Those of you here joining us on YouTube, if you're finding this useful, be sure to subscribe, okay, to the button there. If you like what we're providing to you, then by all means, please give us a thumbs up. We always like it. Also today, if you've got any thoughts or comments or questions, or maybe even if you have ideas for future webinars, please be sure to put them into the commentary box. Okay, we always take on board that feedback, and we're always fascinated to see what kind of topic matters would be of interest to the crowd for our future webinars. But as I said, it's fantastic to see you all here today. You're all very, very welcome. We appreciate that it's been a rather sort of mad year, hasn't it, for us all this last sort of 12 to 15 months. We hope that you're all coming out of it. We here at Admirals hope that wherever you are in the world, we thank you for joining us, and we hope that you're happy and healthy and safe, and looking forward to better days going forward. So without further ado, why don't we switch across to the slides, and let's have a chat about whether trading is an art or a science. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking forward to seeing what, if any, thoughts you might have on that particular matter yourself. So just bear with us, and we'll switch across to the slides. Super. Great. So as I said, I hope you can still all hear me. Hope you can still all see me. As I said, today for the Admirals Hot Topic webinar, we're going to talk about, is trading an art or a science? And will we be able to answer this eternal debate here this afternoon? That's great that you can see me and hear me. That's fantastic. Thank you for that. I'm interested to hear what you have to say, or what you think, whether you believe trading to be an art or a science. I appreciate, as always, that we have a global audience join us on these webinars. I also understand that we have a wide spectrum of experience, okay, from people at one end who are just beginning their trading journey to people who might have been trading for years or perhaps even decades, and so you're all very welcome. Today, we're going to sort of focus a little bit more about, talking about whether trading's an art or a science, so that, perhaps preferably, new traders can actually sort of get an understanding of where we're coming from. They may never have even considered this particular question, but hopefully it will give them a little bit of insight and a little bit of learning about that. For those of you who've got kind of a trading experience, as we go deeper into the presentation, we're going to talk about just one or two particular elements that might be useful to yourself, might give you a little bit of food for thought in terms of the way you look at not only trading, and also actually to actually how you consider yourself as a trader itself. So as I said, it's been an eternal debate for us for probably as long as trading's been going on, but actually probably a more let's say a kind of more prominent question, a more prominent debate, let's say over the last maybe 30 years, where actually we have seen computers sort of effectively not only come into the workplace, but into every aspect of our lives. Okay, some of you you'll all be watching this on a device of one sort or another, and that of course has also sort of filtered through into the trading world as well. So those for you joining us, maybe joining us for one of the first times, just to give you an update that as part of its 20th anniversary, Admiral Markets has rebranded as Admirals. Doesn't really affect you as a client of Admirals. You still get the great service and the great trading opportunities that they provide. It's just so that you're understanding and aware of the branding that is going on with Admirals. And as I said, Admirals, they're a Forex and CFD broker, okay, with a global presence but local support. You'll find that they are licensed and regulated across a wide range of regulatory environments, providing competitive spreads on the most popular trading products like Euro, Dollar, and the DAX 30, and giving you the opportunity to sort of engage with markets using MT4, MT5, and also Admiral's own Supreme Edition. So if you've got any questions about Admirals, please get in touch with your account representative, and they'll be very happy to help guide you. Also, what we can see today is that, you know, in the kind of social media world we live in, you'll also find us now on Instagram as well. So by all means, you can see us there at Admirals Global on Instagram. Be sure to sort of go in there, be sure to click on the follow button. You'll see myself on there and a couple of my colleagues, Marcus and Jens, okay, and, you know, our own contributions there. And that Instagram for that will give you some, you know, updated on what's going on with Admirals and also give you a little bit of insight into markets. So be sure to go there and make sure you follow us. So, as I said, ladies and gentlemen, is trading an art or a science? And you know, the interesting thing is, you know, as I said, this debate has raged for a very long time. Okay, and we will come back to that theme later on. But we'll also talk about, well, you know, how do we define which parts of trading are art and which are science? Maybe you have some thoughts about that. Maybe you sort of understand that, or maybe you have a particular thought about which parts of trading are art, which parts are science. Whether you think you might think it's all art, whether you think it's all science, that's absolutely fine. I'd like to hear that. And also we'll talk about, you know, can we claim to know which one trading truly is? And as I said, we'll go through it, but I'm going to give you my view as well, okay? And you might differ from my view, and that's fine. That's absolutely, you know, differing views is what makes a market. It's what makes a debate. So if you have a particular thought, or if you've had a particular consideration about this, as I said, be sure to put that in the chat box. We truly love to sort of hear what you think about that. For those who don't know me, my name's Paul. I've traded for many years. Okay, traded across a wide range of entities. Primarily, my own trading's FX indices and commodities, and I tend to be a sort of a trend trader for kind of a longer term trades, and a kind of reversal and mean reversion trader for shorter intraday trading. So there we go. Is trading an art or a science? So I have my wonderful assistant Anna here with us today, as always. Okay, making sure everything runs smoothly, make sure everything works wonderful. And she'll probably put a poll up in the you know, in the very short near future about whether, you know, what do you believe? Do you believe trading is an art or a science? And there you go. Okay, as if by magic. Okay, the poll pops up. So please, by all means, you know, put your answers in there. Okay, stab away. Okay, everybody loves a poll, all right, and it always gives me a bit of a insight into you know, the kind of you know, the thinking behind, you know, people's views here as we're here on that. So, you know, I'll let that just ping away for a little moment, okay, whilst you know, we just talk about, you know, as I've said earlier, the debate on whether trading is an art or a science, you know, it has raged on for a long time. Okay, and you know, I run a traders network in London, and pre-pandemic, you know, we would meet up, you know, about 6 to 8 times a year, and invariably what you'd have is, you know, you could have a room full of 100 people, you know, and you could toss in a question like that about whether trading is an art or a science, and you know, you could find a very healthy, sometimes a very unhealthy debate about whether it's a particular art or science. Okay, so it's raged on, all right. What many people might say is, as I kind of alluded to, you know, a little bit earlier on, is that with the increasing use of you know, algorithmic trading or program trading within markets, does that mean that you know, we have finally realized that trading is a science? All right, that's, you know, a thought. You know, have we really finalized that trading is a science? Or, ladies and gentlemen, has it merely shown us, you know, actually how exceptional some manual traders really are? It's kind of an interesting question. Okay, it'd be interesting, you know, of the people here joining us today, you know, how many of you are manual traders? How many of you are you know, algorithmic traders? It would be interesting to know who's there in terms of you know, your kind of way of engaging with markets. But today, what we're going to talk about is, right, is trading an art or a science, and look at how it might reflect upon your own trading. And I'll pass on a couple of you know, sort of bits of insight and feedback from my own work as a trader, but also my own work as a coach, having coached traders, you know, in funds and in institutions, and actually, you know, how they work and how they see this particular question and debate. So, you know, just looking at the poll, there you go. So here, what do you think so far? Okay, do you think trading is an art or a science? Well, we have 85% of people believe trading is a science, okay, with only 15% believing it is an art form. That's kind of interesting. So, as I said, if you're joining us here, just, you know, be sure to just stab at that, okay, you know, just stab away at that and see what you think. But yeah, that kind of shows me kind of an indication of, you know, the kind of people in the room in terms of, you know, where their kind of bent is, okay, what their particular bias is in terms of what their view is, all right, and whether trading is an art or a science. And that's good. As I said, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we love hearing what your thoughts on feedback is. You know, that's what makes a market, okay? It's what makes a particular debate. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's have a chat about art or science, you know, before we even get to trading. Okay, so, you know, I'll put up a couple of pictures there, and it would be interesting to see, you know, just, you know, put it in the chat box, okay, what you think, whether you think they're art or science. So, you know, the top left there is, you know, is an old sort of a Jaguar E-Type car. Do you believe that? Do you believe that, you know, was created by art or by science? What do you think when you look at something like that, like a beautiful car, like a Jaguar E-Type, or, you know, a Ferrari, an Aston, you know, any aesthetically pleasing, you know, vehicle? What do you think of it? Do you think that it was created, you know, by artists or by scientists? You know, what do you think? Okay, James says both. You know, you know, that might be plausible. That might be plausible. Look at the top right, Concorde. Okay, now I appreciate Concorde is now out of service, but, you know, many of us of a certain age. Okay, many of us a certain age, you know, will have remembered and will have seen Concorde gracing the sky. Certainly, if you're in America or UK and France, etc., will have seen it. But, you know, once again, that question becomes, you know, is Concorde, was that created through art or science? Okay, what was it? When you look at that, you know, do you get feelings, you know, emotional feelings about it from its aesthetics, or do you, you know, marvel at the kind of science that was involved in actually creating that thing? Close to home here, you know, you might actually have your mobile phone, your iPhone here, you know, whatever your particular device might be. When you look at that, what do you think? Do you think that is, you know, do you think that's a work of beauty, or do you just think of it, you know, it's a fantastic piece of scientific marvel? You know, what do you actually think? You know, what do you think? Maybe you've never even given thought, consideration to it. You know, so here's your opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to think about, you know, does that come from art or science? Or even if you look at, you know, bottom right, there's Jimi Hendrix there, okay, who's a fantastic guitarist from the 60s. You know, the way he played a guitar, was that art or was that science? You know, do you, when you look at that, you know, when you listen to beautiful music, okay, are you moved, okay, by the artist's interpretation? Or is it a case of, you know, just recognizing that, you know, the particular player was just following a process, or following a series of beautiful notes? And in the middle there, I've got a picture there of Leonardo da Vinci. Okay, I would hope that everybody here would know who Leonardo da Vinci is. Okay, just an amazing man. But you know, when you think of Leonardo da Vinci, do you think of him as an artist, okay, or do you think of him as a scientist? What would you think? I mean, how would you view him? What is actually, you know, where do you think he actually comes from? Where would he sit on that spectrum between art and science? So, you know, the reason I kind of pose that is, it might be said that, you know, many areas of our life, you know, could actually sort of be defined by that spectrum in terms of looking at about whether, you know, what that is whether it's an art or it's a science. Now, of course, clearly there's some elements which are very clearly at the kind of ends of the spectrum. But what we find is an awful lot of it, you know, is it's a kind of a shade of grey there, okay, depending upon you know, what it is, and also depending upon the interpretation that we might put upon it. And that interpretation might well definitely come from our own past experiences, okay, and our own particular biases, which is a trading subject all of its own, okay, something for us to talk about in another particular session. But what I want you to think about is just understanding this kind of discussion, this conversation, because it actually is relevant to trading. So, you know, that comes down to, when we look at trading, is it an art or is it a science? Okay, and you know, and you can have that particular discussion, that particular conversation. So I'm just looking here at the poll again. Okay, so you know, it's a changed a smidge. All right, we're up to 18% of people who think it's an art, whereas 82% believe it is a science. But you know, you're still looking there, aren't you? Okay, sort of, you know, 80% plus of people, okay, you know, believe it's a science, whereas 1 in 5 will think, just under 1 in 5 will think that it's a form of art, and that is, I find that particularly fascinating. Okay, I find that, is that a case of, now admittedly it's a small sample size we've just taken here for the people joining us today, but also is it a case of, is that a reflection of the kind of modern technology driven world that we live in here? Okay, that's a particular thought about it, and if we look at it, all right, if we look at sort of elements of trading, well, if you think back now, admittedly there's not many of them around these days, but the old days, you had the pit traders, the guys, mostly guys, okay, in those pits screaming and shouting at others. What do you believe they were? Do you believe they were artists, or do you believe they were scientists? Be interesting to see what you think. Okay, be interesting. Just put in the chat box there. Just ping away there. What do you think they were? Were those pit traders? Were they artists or scientists? Okay, and I have my own particular view, but I'm always curious to find out what other traders think. Okay, how other traders look and see, and interpret these particular situations. All right, my view on this would be that the pit traders are mostly towards the kind of the artists end of the scale. Okay, they were particularly, and we'll talk a little bit about why. Okay, later on. Okay, as we start to come towards this, sort of trying to understand whether it is art or science. But they would be, many people would look at them as artists. If you've ever been out drinking with any pit traders in your life, like I had in my earlier days, you would understand that they are, some of them were particular types of artists, but they were artists nonetheless. And it's a case of fascinating characters, absolutely, unbelievable individuals, absolutely fantastic insight into a particular element. So Georgie says that he thinks that they thinks that they were scientists. That's absolutely fine. It's quite understandable. And if you're not really fully sure of like the pit traders, then you should be watching. There's a movie from the 1980s called Trading Places, sort of Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd, which is about trading. I don't think you can really call yourself a trader if you haven't seen Trading Places, and you can't actually sort of quote particular parts from the movie, but you should go and particularly watch that. So there you go. As the kind of poll has timed out there, okay, and what we can see is the final of that poll was that 25% of people thought it was art, and 75% of it thought it was science. That's fascinating, interesting. We'll come on to that. So Daniel says, I think that the pit traders were artists in the way of doing their jobs, but at the same time being scientists in the way of choosing what and when to do it. That's interesting. That's great commentary, Daniel. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you there. Okay, and I think as we go kind of deeper into this, we will look into that a little bit more. And as I said, I'm gonna share my particular personal views. But if we go to the other end of the spectrum, these days, okay, if you look at like high frequency trading, program trading, algo trading, what would you believe them to be, ladies and gentlemen? Would you believe them to be artists, or would you believe them to be scientists? Now, it might be said that invariably, that actually, might be quite a quick and easy question to answer, and that in fact, invariably, because we live in a technological world, okay, that invariably, and as we see the increasing use of artificial intelligence, is that actually trading has just been handed over to mathematicians and scientists, and invariably, actually, human element has perceived to be removed from kind of trading and trading decisions in particular. But I suppose when most people would think of high frequency trading, I think of algo traders, okay, their kind of natural inclination would be that they would believe they are scientists, and that might be what was reflected in the poll that we just ran there for the people here. Okay, that 75% of people thought that trading was a science, and as I said earlier, that could just be a reflection of the kind of modern world we live in. Younger traders coming into the market are invariably, you see there's a great deal of demand for kind of program trading, algorithmic trading solutions. Why would that be? Well, we'll touch on that a little bit later as well. Okay, I'm gonna talk about a little bit about that later on. Okay, just to give you some insight. But that's that question. Were they high frequency traders? Are they artists or scientists? And I suspect most people would sort of say that they're presumed to be completely scientists. So let's have a little think about maybe some elements close to our own home, close to our own particular, way of trading. So let's think about fundamental analysis, ladies and gentlemen. All right, fundamental analysis. If you're a completely new trader, down there at the bottom left, a method of evaluating a security that entails attempting to measure its intrinsic value by examining related economic, financial, and other qualitative and quantitative factors. So for those of you here today, what would you think? Would you think fundamental analysis is an art? Or do you think believe it to be a science? How would you view that when you think of fundamental analysis? When someone mentions it, when you see it, okay, wherever you picked it up, what do you consider it to be? Do you consider it to be an art or a science? Now, I appreciate that fundamental analysis is not well. It is a popular way of making trading decisions, but there are other more popular ways trading make decisions. But invariably, there is always an element of it, okay, in terms of people's decision making, and then it becomes that question about, is it an art or is it a science? Okay, so I want you to just think about that. Okay, think about that for the moment. We're gonna come back to it as we go through. And then moving on, probably even closer to home, especially for, let's say, for private traders themselves, technical analysis. All right. Do you believe that to be an art or a science? The definition there of, for completely new traders, TA, analysis of past price changes in the hope of forecasting future price changes. Now, whereas fundamental analysis, is used, but perhaps not as popular as many would imagine. Technical analysis is very popular, certainly for private traders, for both good and bad reasons. Okay, in terms of how to work it. Okay, and it'd be interesting to know whether people who are here today who use technical analysis, do they believe that to be an art or a science in terms of using that for making their trading decisions? Because I think many people would they would jump to a case that it is it's a scientific way, whereas my view, all right, this is my view, is that I believe technical analysis can probably be learned within 30 days. All right, I suspect you could learn the good basics of technical analysis within 30 days. Okay, from a good class, from a good trading book, etc. However, applying technical analysis in a way that is disciplined, in a way that is consistent, a way that is constructive, in a way that is effective, that could take you 2 months, 2 years, 2 decades, a lifetime, depending upon your own particular individual situation. So, this is where, as I said, this is where it starts to get, this is where I think, it starts to get grey. It starts to get a little bit, there's the shades of grey there that are going on between people looking at something that might actually be a science, in the effect that, most technical analysis indicators, the majority of them are derived from OHLC data. They are derived from those 4 bits of data. Okay, that's what most technical indicators are derived from. But then invariably, as you start to draw on chart patterns, etc., identify trend lines, identify channels, etc., that is where interpretation comes in, and that's where the kind of the artistry element of it comes in. Okay, and this is where we kind of move towards those particular shades of grey. In terms of my own view, do I believe trading is an art science? And I say this is my own view. You might differ with this completely, which is absolutely fine. As I said, I don't have a problem with that. That makes trading a debate. That's what about different opinions. What makes a market? My own view, as the picture shows, I'm going to sit on the fence here. Okay, and my own view is that trading is a mixture of both art and science. And the very, very best traders that I've either seen or I have worked with have the ability to effectively to meld both art and science together in their own trading, and that's what I'm going to talk about now. And that's why I said I was kind of interested to see what the results of the poll were. It perhaps doesn't surprise me that 75% believe it to be a science, because maybe that is a reflection of the kind of the sort of modern trading styles. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that as we go through here. Here's an interesting quote I picked up from, okay, which is from a chap who used to be the head of quantitative strategies at Goldman Sachs. Okay, so this was the quantitative strategies, that was the day job at Goldman Sachs. And there's an interesting quote that in physics you are playing against God, who does not change his mind very often. In finance, you are playing against God's creatures, whose feelings are ephemeral, at best unstable, and the news on which they are based keeps streaming in. And that's I think a fantastic quote from a chap who works, as you would expect to be, head of quantitative strategies for the major financial institution, and that's what they actually that's what his view is there. Okay, and this is an element of, as I said, for me, starting to think that it is actually more than just a science. Okay, we have technology here. Okay, we have fantastic technology at our hands. Okay, we're watching this, YouTube, Zoom, on devices. Okay, over the internet, we have absolutely fantastic technological wizardry that enables us to be more effective and to live lives in very different ways than even just 20 years or so ago. And so effectively, I think people sometimes maybe not necessarily take it for granted, but they invariably sort of think that basically is making us smarter as individuals, or that we're able to offload our decisions to the technology, which in some elements we can. But actually, as we move towards expert status, we realize that actually the difference, the edge, is actually within that expert, and we're gonna come on to that in a little bit later. And where it comes down to in terms of whether it's an art or science, and this is a very simplistic view, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate that you could read some fantastic scientific journals about this. I'm just keeping this very simplistic for the purposes of our short webinar today, so that you can have you can take away some food for thought. Is that a lot of this is based around interpretation? Okay, a lot of this is based around interpretation, namely anything that requires an element of interpretation. It is moving towards becoming an art. Okay, is moving towards becoming an art. And what I said though earlier was that I believe trading is a mixture of art and science. Okay, and it's being able to understand, okay, which are the elements of science, which are the elements of art. The good traders are able to do that, and they're able to meld those two elements together, and in doing so, they're able to sort of trade much better. Okay, their effectiveness as a trader is far better than somebody who just goes down one particular route. What I very often find is that completely new traders, okay, they come to the market thinking they're an artist, thinking that they are, an intuitive trader, okay, because they may have been an artist in other areas of their life, okay, they might have actually, just been quite intuitive in other areas of their life. But actually, to be an intuitive trader actually takes years. Okay, and this is what links into the element of being the science. My view is that there are elements of trading that are science, as in you view them as a case of scientific principles, namely that you might be able to bend them, but you're desperately unlikely to break them. You have to work within them. And by doing that, and what I particularly mean in terms of things like risk management, okay, risk management is something that is effectively that there shouldn't be any interpretation about, okay. Risk management in particular, your rules, that becomes a particular, almost like a set of scientific principles which you do not even really try to bend, let alone break, because if you do, well, invariably things don't end very well. But what it is actually, as part of it, as part of the scientific element of it, is that as a trader, certainly as a private trader, you need to develop the skills, okay, and then those skills, as you develop them, they become a habit, all right, and in building that particular process, that you develop a feel for the markets, okay, and your trading becomes an art form. And as I said, very often what happens is new traders believe they already are an artist, but actually, like any artist, whether it be a trader, whether it be Leonardo da Vinci, whether it be Vincent van Gogh, whether it be Jimi Hendrix on his guitar, the reason they became artists is actually because of those kind of skills that they develop, that process that they follow, those habits that they formed. Okay, and in many ways, those are kind of like the kind of at a very simplistic level, almost like scientific building blocks which you have to have in place before you're able to, before your artistry can actually flourish. And I think that is, this is where we start to, becomes really fascinating about understanding the kind of the about how private traders and how they become artists, and about how that level of interpretation can be both a blessing and a curse. So we think about it for an example. So back in the 1980s, that film Trading Places was based on element. There was the great trading experiment of the trading turtles, by Richard Dennis, where invariably they took, I think it's about 20 odd traders, and basically they gave them one scientific trading system to follow, which you would think that all of those 20 traders were able to trade very, very well and deliver off the back of that one trading system. And in fact, it was not the case. And in fact, it was not the case. And in fact, only a couple of them went on to become really successful traders. One of them was a chap called Curtis Faith, who I've met a few times. I'm lucky to call him a friend. He's his books are excellent. But even that group of 20 with a trading system with a statistical edge, wasn't actually, a lot of those traders weren't able to sort of employ it correctly and effectively. And this is where, as I said, a good trader, a good trading artist, they might just have a simple moving average, but they could actually trade well, and they could effectively deliver effective, consistent, world-class results just with that, because of the artistry that they have developed within their trading. But a lot of that artistry is built on the building blocks of simple scientific principles, primarily to do with risk management. So with that, as I said, I believe trading is both an art and a science for us here at this particular level. And I appreciate that there will be people at some institutions who will have gone down the complete science route, the kind of high frequency traders. But even though there are elements, in terms of the high frequency traders, how those are programmed, how those particular trading programs are created, they are still developed from humans. So there is an element, there is an element of artistry in that. One of the ways you can think of it, in terms of relating to your own journey as a trader, in relating to sort of your own particular experience, is this simple 5 steps to becoming a competent trader, which you might have seen before, you might have actually sort of may have never heard of it, but it kind of gives us a little element gives you something that you're able to relate it to your own particular trading journey. So it's a case of step 1 is where you are at a level of unconscious incompetence. This is where you're completely new to trading. You're completely new to it. All right, no idea, really no idea what you're doing. You're reversing your trades, you're doubling up on your trades, you're trading everything, you're trading all time frames. You really don't know what you don't know. And that is normally to begin with, you have a little bit of success, because actually you don't actually know what you're doing. You don't know what to be scared of. All right, but after a couple of losses, that's when that fear kicks in, and then we get programming from our earlier childhood, etc. And that's what leads you to step 2. That's step 2, which is about conscious incompetence, namely you're not doing something right. You know that you're not doing something right as a trader, and this is where that journey can really start again. This is where that journey can go off in many different directions, because this is where you find traders will they will change their trading system every 5 minutes. They will change their trading instruments constantly. They will basically be following guru after guru after guru after guru, just trying to sort of to achieve that holy grail. That holy grail of trading and being consistently profitable. But towards the kind of end of that sort of second step of conscious incompetence, they kind of start to realize, that actually it doesn't really matter too much about what kind of trading system that they have. Not it's what actually happens is, in this kind of get this eureka moment, is that when they kind of start to realize that trading is about one thing. It's about consistency of your edge. and the discipline to take all the trades no matter what, as you know the probability stack in your favor. So it's that, that understanding that kind of probabilities so that it gives you your edge, and then having the consistency and the discipline to sort of follow through on that. And that is what kind of tends to lead towards the kind of kind of a leap, all right, from conscious incompetence to conscious competence. Okay, that kind of eureka moment, that leap, where conscious competence, you know what you're doing, but you're having to work at it. So and this kind of, I mean, these are 5 steps to being a trader, but actually it's equally effective to pretty much everything. Effectively advocating. It's across every sort of trader's journey, and it could be across any journey, anything that you particularly want to sort of embrace and become good at, whether it be playing the guitar like Jimi Hendrix, okay, whether it be in a trader, okay, or maybe even something like learning to drive a car. The first time you get into learning to drive a car, you're unconsciously incompetent, all right? You don't really know what everything does. Everything is, you make mistakes, okay? You're a liability to yourself and to everybody else on the road. And it's only very quickly you realize that you're consciously incompetent, okay, at let's say driving a car, and invariably you need to learn how to do it, okay? You need to put in the practice, the deliberate practice. You need to spend time working on it. And that kind of shift from conscious incompetence to conscious competence, that tends to only come, or is aided mostly by having an instructor, a mentor. So when you learn to drive, you might have had a formal driving instructor. Okay, if you're learning to play the piano, you probably went to piano lessons. If you're learning a sport, okay, you might have gone to sports teams. If you're learning to trade, well, that is when you're kind of working with a mentor, someone who can help you sort of get across that sort of boundary from conscious incompetence to conscious competence. But even at conscious competence, okay, you're having to work at it. You're doing well, but you're having to work at it, every day. And that's probably like the first time you passed your driving test, okay. The first few months, okay, after driving, you were consciously competent, but you were having to work at it. You're having to you're having to think about what you were actually doing. And it's only once you've reached that kind of step 5, that unconscious competence, as a trader, that is when you're able to sort of, to effectively to enter states of flow, okay, states of flow, and you're able to not only flow within yourself, but actually, connect with the market and flow in and out of markets, okay, as and when they are suitable. In the same way that, at some point, okay, if you're learning to play the piano, you practice hard, remember what I said about developing the skills, okay, building the habits, following the process. At some point it will click, okay, and invariably you will just be able to play the piano. Or if you're trying to learn a new language, okay, or if you're trading markets, okay, or it's a case of hitting it at that state of flow, clicking into that and being able to operate at that level of unconscious competence, okay. And to me, that is when it's that is when you are an artist, okay. As I said, it's the artist who becomes unconsciously competent, okay. That is that's a state that actually most of us are sort of trying to work towards achieving. And that journey will be for everybody else in their own particular time frames. So James says, are you advocating not stopping when you hit 5% for the day? Well, James, that would be a particular sort of rule, okay, based upon your own basically trading metrics, which is what we're about to come on to now, without actually understanding how you would trade, understanding what you trade, understanding what your trading experience is. I couldn't make just like an arbitrary call like saying don't trade once you've hit your 5% limits, okay. That would be an element of you trying to understand your trading journey, where you are on these particular steps, and also your particular style as a trader. So it's a case of that kind of individual position. But as you say, in terms of eureka, that would be a case of that, relevant to that eureka moment. That would be a case of yes, absolutely. In terms of if you are an active intraday trader, then you would be particularly taking trades in line with your style. But you still might have a risk management rule that actually only allows you to sort of stop trading after a certain number of trades, etc. That's the kind of those scientific principles that you would not be wanting to bend or particularly break. And it kind of links into this, which is what you've heard me talk plenty about, okay, in terms of trading, namely, is that the 4 M's of trading: markets, method, money, and myself. Your markets, your analysis, that might be art, okay, that might be an art form to you. Also an element of your method, okay, your trading method, whether it be, depending, it might be mechanical, purely mechanical, moving across to being subjective or intuitive. In terms of money management, okay, money management, that is scientific, okay. These are principles you don't bend, okay, because actually, you'll end up in trouble. And in terms of myself, managing myself, well, that actually sort of links into, there's a little bit of, you keeping good metrics, keeping good records on your own trading, because it's by doing that you understand how you operate, how you understand to operate more effectively. And by doing so, that is what kind of allows you to access those states of flow, because you'll be able to make better decisions based on the kind of data from your own on your own particular trading. And that's what creates that sweet spot that we're all particularly looking for as traders, when all 4 of those are melded together. So, in terms of being relative to our own journey as traders, kind of question here for this was, well, what's the difference between a fantastic manual trader like the gentleman on the left? You get extra marks if you actually know who that trader is. Stick in the chat box if you know who it is. Or on the right side, a black box algo program trader. Okay, does anybody know who the trader on the left is? He's my kind of professional trading hero of my own. He's a chap called Paul Tudor Jones. Okay, he's in one of the original Market Wizards book. We're both called Paul. We both our birthday 28th September. We both wear glasses, but after that, our kind of fortunes differ considerably. But he is my kind of professional trading hero. But you think about what's the difference between him and they operate against an absolute black box algo trading system. And initially, most people would think that they are completely and utterly different. But what you'll find is that for funds who still have human traders operating there, they focus massively on the collection of copious metrics on traders who employ discretionary judgment. Okay, and this is the kind of the art and the science. The trader may have the element of discretionary judgment, but they are capturing every little bit of metric on his data, on his trading decisions. And from these metrics, it's possible to determine which traders are achieving results beyond their peers and beyond what would be expectable by luck. Okay, you realize and find that there are some traders that actually they are exceptionally good traders. Okay, exceptionally good traders, and they are able to sort of produce consistently. Okay, and it's actually a joy to be around them. It's a joy to work with them. It's a joy to see them. And funds trace the outcome of their discretionary traders and allocate more capital to their all stars. Okay, so if you've ever worked in a prop shop, or if you've ever worked in an institution, a hedge fund, etc., as I said, the traders may be artists, okay, but there is the science element of effectively capturing all of the metrics, okay, that all the data they possibly can, and being able to sort of manage that. And back in the day, that used to be, it's quite a laborious project, because you have to be doing it yourself. Nowadays we have fantastic technological pieces of tech that can actually help that, and that can effectively collect all the data from your own particular trader. And as a private trader, there is no escaping this for yourself. Okay, if you want to get better as a trader, if you want to understand the art and science of your own trading, you need to be keeping great metrics. Okay, you need to be collecting it all as much as you possibly can, and then effectively starting to be able to analyze that, because that will just show you some fantastic insight into your own trading. Most new traders are trend traders, but we also have to realize is that there are trends within your own particular trading. Whereas, on the flip side, there will be funds who use, the development of automated trading systems, and they're based upon back-tested historical patterns in the markets, and there are a plethora of them. Are there a plethora of them because they are better than the human traders, or is it actually because it's a more suitable sort of a corporate strategy? That might be a different conversation for a different day, based upon my own experience of working with funds. But what they're doing is, as I said, they're creating their algos off their back-tested historical patterns, and these address the need for scientific money management by eliminating as much of the human element of trading as possible. And there are some particular funds that do this exceptionally well. Their mechanical trading systems are the equivalent of the therapist's evidence-based treatment manual. Okay, so it's a case of neither one is, I personally think neither one is particularly better or worse than the other. They both have their particular pros and cons, and a lot of it depends upon the actual, depends upon the kind of the sort of A, the individuals, and B, the board of directors of funds, okay, in terms of which direction they wish to go. But, for people joining us here today, watching this in terms of understanding about, your own effectively trading journey, it's about recognizing there is an element of art and science, and that, if you might wish to make discretionary trading judgments, but if you do, you should be basically collecting copious metrics on your own particular trading, because that is the science, that's those building blocks that will help you actually help your artistry to flourish. And it says that once you treat traders as trading systems and objectively measure their performance, well, the dichotomy between what's scientific and subject starts to fall away. Subjective methods in trading are objectively valid if they can be shown to produce results beyond those expectable by chance. Okay, this is about effectively coming back to collecting copious metrics. Okay, copious data on that, and understanding your metrics as a trader is absolutely key. Okay, and it's something that I've talked about before, but I'm here to sort of effectively reinforce that every chance I get. So as we start to finish up, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of takeaways, all right, is trading an art or science? My view is that trading is both an art and a science. Your analysis, that is an art form, all right? Remember what I said, you can probably learn technical analysis in 30 days, but it could take you years to be able to actually sort of develop it and utilize it in a way that is useful to yourself. Your trading decisions may be art, okay? Some people will use, very mechanical trading systems, okay? Some you'll use mechanical. Others might be intuitive and discretionary, and that becomes an art form. But, and here's the important thing for private traders, your risk management is a science. Your metrics are a science, okay? These are elements that you don't break, okay? You don't work against, you don't try and bend. They are effectively set in stone, okay, like scientific principles, all right? But what it is the good traders is by combining both of these, that's when you're actually able to succeed, okay? And it's effectively, as I said, the good traders that I've worked with, they have been the ones that have actually been able to understand and recognize and combine both of them. So in conclusion, as I said, trading is both an art and a science. You need to develop the skills, and then the skills become your habit. In the process, you develop a feel for the markets, and trading becomes an art. However, it does depend upon interpretation. Technical and fundamental analysis are both arts. Risk management should not be open to interpretation, all right? It's the scientific part, it's the scientific building block upon which everything else should be built. You, the trader, well, you can be an artist and a scientist in your trading, okay? That is possible. You can be the black box when the right principles are applied. And that's what you'll find really super successful, okay? And traders at funds, they may be discretionary, but in fact, they are almost like a human black box. And that is not everybody can get there, okay? But what I'm saying is, the really excellent ones could do, and it is something to strive towards. So don't forget to join us next time. Is that effectively what we have is our Join on Friday, where my colleague Jens is going to talk about how do professional traders use RSI in their trading. They'll give you an introduction to relative strength index, RSI in the real trading world. How does Jens use it in his own trading? So join us. That's this Friday, 28th of May. Check your inbox for the webinar link, or head over to the Admirals website to make sure that you sign up. As always, I hope you found that particularly useful and helpful. Okay, it gives you a bit of insight. As I appreciate, we always have a bit of a broad range of people in the room. For some people, it will be it's effectively a case of giving you something to take away, to think about, something to sort of maybe consider employing. Maybe as a trader at the moment, you think you're a complete artist because you're just trading whatever you want and you're not using any kind of risk management or effectively understanding your metrics. In which case, change it. Or alternatively, you might well be a completely down the science route, recognizing that actually you just want to be like a program algo traders, okay? But what we can say is that if complete science, complete program trading worked, well, then invariably there would be no other traders, and we would not get blow-ups in algo funds just as much as we would in human funds. So, as always, as I said, the kind of the solution is in the middle. If you want to contact us, if you've got questions, if you've been watching this, okay, later on demand, okay, you can contact us. Email global@admiralmarkets.com, youtube.com/Admiral Globals, facebook.com /Admirals Global there, and of course, as we said earlier, instagram.com /Admirals Global. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I think we ran over just a couple of minutes there. So apologise for that. But as I said, we could talk about this. We could talk about this, for days. I appreciate that, we're kind of a little bit of a sort of a gentle, admittedly, sometimes maybe a little bit of a simplistic interpretation. But the whole idea is to give you a little bit of insight, okay, a little bit of food for thought, a little bit of education that you can take away and think about and utilise in your own trading. So what I'd be saying is, as I said a little bit earlier, if you're a discretionary manual trader who isn't managing risk and isn't keeping metrics on your trading, you need to change that, okay? You need to change that tonight. But equally, you might be actually sort of just trying to trade a mechanical system yourself, okay? But recognizing that actually, as you work at this, okay, as you work at developing your trading skills, as you work at developing the right habits, that is when you go from being, let's say a mechanical scientific trader across to being an artistic, intuitive trader, okay? But that takes time. So as always, I hope you found that useful. If as I said, if you're joining us here, thanks for joining us in Zoom, or thanks for joining us on the YouTube live streaming. Okay, but as always, be sure to subscribe to our channel if you've liked this, if you found it useful. Please, give us a thumbs up. If you've got questions about this particular session, or you've got ideas or thoughts for future ones, then by all means give us a shout. Okay, we'll be really happy to hear what your thoughts and commentary are. And as always, I wish you the very best of success in your own trading, ladies and gentlemen, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Trade well, everybody. Cheers.